She could hear everything. Every whisper, every tear, every confession. For 3 weeks, Elise Montgomery had been unconscious in her hospital bed while her entire company unraveled around her. But it was her assistant's heartbreaking words he thought she couldn't hear, that finally made her open her eyes. If you've ever wondered what people would say if they thought you couldn't hear them, stay with me until the end of this incredible story. And if this touches your heart, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more stories that remind us what it means to be human. The accident happened on a rainy Tuesday evening. Elise Montgomery, the 38-year-old CEO of Pinnacle Innovations, had been working late as usual. The quarterly reports were due, investors were getting anxious, and she needed everything to be perfect. Perfect was the only standard Elise had ever accepted, from herself and from everyone around her. The roads were slick with rain when her car hydroplaned on the highway. 3 full rotations before slamming into the concrete divider. The airbag deployed, but not before her head hit the side window with enough force to knock her unconscious. When the paramedics arrived, they found her slumped over the steering wheel, blood trickling from a gash on her forehead. At the hospital, doctors told her sister Mara that Elise had suffered a severe concussion. She'll wake up when she's ready, the neurologist had said. The brain has its own timeline for healing. What they didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Elise had regained consciousness on the 3rd day. But she kept her eyes closed, her breathing measured. She wasn't ready to face the world again. Not yet. It had started as a moment of weakness. That first morning when she felt herself swimming back to consciousness, she heard the nurses discussing her company. Apparently everything's falling apart without her, one had whispered. Board members fighting, stock dropping. Makes you wonder if anyone's irreplaceable, you know? Elise had been about to open her eyes, to demand her phone and start damage control. But something stopped her. A thought so foreign to her driven personality that it almost scared her. What if I just don't? What if I stay here, in this limbo, and see what happens? So she did. She kept her eyes closed, her breathing steady. She became an observer in her own life for the first time since she was a child. And what she observed changed everything. The parade of visitors began immediately. Board members came first, their concerned voices barely masking their panic. We need to issue a statement to the shareholders, Gregory Winters, her CFO, had insisted to Mara. The market is responding to uncertainty. We need to project stability. My sister is in a coma, Greg, Mara had snapped. Maybe we could wait until she's conscious before worrying about the damn stock price. Elise had almost smiled then. Her younger sister had always been her opposite, emotional, impulsive, prioritizing people over profit. Qualities Elise had always secretly admired but could never allow herself to embrace. As days passed, the visits from executives became less frequent. Their concerns shifted from Elise's health to company politics. She listened as alliances formed and fractured, as people she'd trusted for years positioned themselves to take advantage of her absence. It was educational, if heartbreaking. But it was Daniel Parker, her executive assistant for the past 4 years, who came every single day. Daniel, the quiet, efficient single father who somehow managed to keep her impossible schedule while raising his 8-year-old daughter Lily alone. Daniel, who Elise had always viewed as simply an extension of her work life, a necessary tool for her success. At first, his visits were professional. He would sit beside her bed and update her on company matters as if she could hear him. The Westridge contract is proceeding on schedule, he would say. I've rescheduled your keynote for next quarter, and the board approved the interim leadership structure we discussed last month. But as days turned into weeks, something changed. Daniel began to talk to her differently. Lily asked about you again today, he said one afternoon. She's made you a get-well card. I told her I'd bring it tomorrow. She's worried about you. We all are. Elise had never met Daniel's daughter. Had never asked to. had never considered that her assistant had a life outside of serving her needs. The realization made something twist uncomfortably in her chest. By the beginning of the third week, Daniel's visits had become the only ones she truly looked forward to. He would come after hours, when the hospital was quiet. Sometimes he would just sit in silence. Other times, he would tell her about his day, about Lily's school projects, about the small moments of his life that Elise had never bothered to inquire about. Lily got the lead in the school play, he said one evening. She's going to be Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She's so excited, but also nervous. I told her you would be proud of her for being brave enough to try. He paused then, and Elise could hear the smile in his voice. I hope that's okay. She's always been fascinated by you. The lady who runs everything, she calls you. Elise felt tears gathering behind her closed eyelids. In all her years of achievement, no one had ever looked up to her as a person, only as a success story, a symbol of power and ambition. The idea that this child she'd never met saw something admirable in her was overwhelming. The company continued to unravel in her absence. Through Daniel's updates and the whispered conversations of other visitors, Elise learned that Gregory was making a play for her position, that the Westridge contract was in jeopardy, that 3 of her senior managers had already jumped ship. The empire she'd spent 15 years building was crumbling, and strangely, she found herself caring less than she would have expected. Instead, she found herself waiting for Daniel's visits, for his gentle voice and the stories about his life that painted a picture so different from her own. A life with less money and power, certainly, but with connections and moments of joy that had been absent from hers for as long as she could remember. It was on the 23rd day that everything changed. Daniel came later than usual. The room was dark except for the dim light above her bed. Elise could tell immediately that something was wrong. His breathing was uneven, his footsteps hesitant. I'm sorry I'm late, he said, his voice rough. It's been a day, Elise. It was the first time he'd used her first name since she'd been hospitalized. Gregory called an emergency board meeting. He's making his move tomorrow. He has the votes to be named interim CEO, and we both know there won't be anything interim about it once he gets his foot in the door. Daniel sighed, and she heard him sink into the chair beside her bed. I should care more about this. I should be fighting harder for you. But today, all I could think about was Lily. His voice broke, and Elise felt her heart rate quicken. Something was very wrong. She had her costume fitting for the play today. I was supposed to be there. I promised her I would be there. But Gregory scheduled the pre-meeting briefing at the same time deliberately, knowing I wouldn't be able to say no. He paused, and Elise heard a sound she'd never heard from him before, a soft, muffled sob. She was the only kid whose parent didn't show up. The teacher sent me a picture of her in the costume, standing alone while all the other kids had their moms and dads fussing over them. She looked so small, Elise. So alone. Elise felt a tear escape from beneath her closed eyelid, sliding down her temple into her hair. I've been telling myself for years that I'm doing the right thing, Daniel continued. That working these insane hours, being available 24/7, missing school events, it's all worth it because I'm providing for her. Building a future for her. But what good is a future if I'm missing her present? What good is financial security if she grows up feeling like she comes second to a job? He was crying openly now, his words punctuated by quiet gasps. I don't know if you can hear me. The doctors say maybe you can. But I need to say this out loud to someone, and you're the only person who might understand. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep sacrificing my daughter's childhood for a company that doesn't care about either of us. Elise felt something break open inside her chest, a dam she'd built years ago, holding back emotions she'd deemed unnecessary, inconvenient for the life she'd chosen. I'm giving my notice, Daniel said quietly. Whether to you when, if, you wake up, or to whoever takes your place. Lily deserves better. And maybe maybe I do too. She heard him stand, felt his presence closer to her bed. Then, so softly she almost missed it, I hope you wake up, Elise. Not for the company. Not even for yourself. But because I think there's a version of you that you've never let anyone see. A version that might actually be happy. And I think that person deserves a chance to live. His fingers brushed hers briefly, a touch so gentle it could have been imagined. Then his footsteps retreated, the door opened and closed, and he was gone. Elise lay in the darkness, tears flowing freely now. In 15 years of building her empire, no one had ever spoken to her with such honesty. No one had ever seen through the armor she'd constructed so carefully around herself. No one had ever suggested that there might be more to her than her achievements, her position, her power. And in that moment, she knew she couldn't pretend anymore. When the night nurse came in to check her vitals an hour later, she found Elise Montgomery sitting up in bed, fully conscious, tears still drying on her face. "Well, look who's decided to join us," the nurse said, recovering quickly from her shock. "I'll page the doctor right away." "Wait," Elise said, her voice hoarse from disuse. "What time is it?" "Just past 11, honey. I need a phone. Right now." The nurse hesitated. "Ms. Montgomery, you've been unconscious for over 3 weeks. The doctor needs to." "Please," Elise said, the word unfamiliar on her tongue. "It's important." Something in her expression must have convinced the nurse, who reluctantly handed over her personal cell phone. "5 minutes, then I'm calling the doctor no matter what." Elise nodded, then dialed the number she knew by heart, the number she called at all hours, expecting immediate response, never considering what it might be interrupting. Daniel answered on the third ring, his voice wary at the unknown number. "Hello?" "Daniel," she said. "It's me." The silence on the other end lasted so long she thought he might have hung up. "Elise," he finally whispered. You're awake?" "Yes. And I heard you." "I heard everything." Another long pause. "Everything?" "Everything," she confirmed. "And you're right. About all of it. I need to see you. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient. Now." "Elise, it's almost midnight. Lily is asleep, I can't." "Bring her," Elise interrupted. "Bring Lily. I want to meet the girl who thinks I'm the lady who runs everything. I want to tell her she's wrong. I don't run everything. I haven't even been running my own life." The next morning, Gregory Winters strode confidently into the boardroom, prepared to claim the position he'd been coveting for years. Instead, he found Elise Montgomery sitting at the head of the table, looking pale but very much awake, with Daniel Parker beside her. "Good morning, Greg," she said calmly. "I believe we have some things to discuss about the future of this company." "My company." The changes came swiftly after that. Elise restructured the entire executive team, promoting those who had demonstrated loyalty during her absence and showing the door to those who had tried to take advantage. But the most significant changes were to her own role. Effective immediately, "I will no longer be available for calls or emails after 6 p.m. or on weekends," she announced at the all-company meeting her first day back. "I will be taking my full vacation allowance every year. And I expect every one of you to do the same." Murmurs of shock rippled through the room. "I've spent 15 years teaching everyone in this company, myself included, that success requires sacrifice. I was wrong. True success means building something sustainable, not just a business that can survive without its founder, but a life worth living outside these walls." She glanced at Daniel, who stood at the back of the room with a small, dark-haired girl beside him. Lily Parker was watching Elise with wide, awestruck eyes. "Some of you may not be comfortable with these changes," Elise continued. "That's understandable. Change is hard. But I believe we can build a company that values achievement and humanity in equal measure. Those who share that vision are welcome to join me. Those who don't will be generously compensated for their time here, but this is the direction we're moving. In the months that followed, something remarkable happened. Despite reducing working hours, despite Elise's insistence on work-life boundaries, Pinnacle's productivity increased. Innovation flourished. The company culture transformed from one of fear and competition to one of collaboration and purpose. Daniel stayed, accepting a promotion to chief of staff with the explicit understanding that he would never miss another of Lily's school events. And slowly, cautiously, he and Elise began to build something neither of them had expected, a friendship that gradually evolved into something deeper. 1 year after the accident, Elise sat in the school auditorium beside Daniel, watching 9-year-old Lily perform as Dorothy. When the little girl delivered her famous line, "There's no place like home," Elise felt Daniel's hand slip into hers. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For waking up. For changing. For showing Lily that even the strongest people can learn and grow." Elise squeezed his hand, thinking of the woman she had been before the accident, driven, successful, and utterly alone. The woman who would have missed this moment without a second thought. "I should be thanking you," she replied softly. "You saw me when I was invisible, even to myself." Sometimes, Elise reflected, it takes losing everything to discover what truly matters. Sometimes you have to close your eyes to finally see. And sometimes, the most important words are the ones spoken when we think no one can hear us. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind us of our shared humanity and the power of connection. Remember, it's never too late to open your eyes to what truly matters.